Welcome to the Champagne Society. We believe every mama deserves a break and some bubbly. And normalizing the struggle of the mama juggle reminds us we're always doing better than we think, and we're in this together. I'm your host, Gervase Kolmos, mom of three and certified mindset coach for moms. Each week, we'll be having unfiltered conversations with other inspiring entrepreneurial moms to hear their real life moments and lessons learned on what it actually takes to make it motherhood and instead of motherhood or. Pour yourself a drink and lock yourself in the bathroom because I have a potty mouth and I never have just one glass of wine. As my 4-year-old says,
let's talk about important things.
All right, welcome everybody. I've got my friend Lucy Cuneo here. Thank you so much for being here, Lucy. Let's pretend we're just starting and we haven't already said hi.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for having me. I'm so proud of you.
Oh my God, just because it's because of the mic, right? You're proud because this looks...
Official.
Oh, well, hi!
I was going to bring tea. Thank you. I need
Stop it. Will, hi. Congratulations on your baby.
He was like, angle the camera so they can't see me. But
great job.
Totally see this. Yeah. Thank you.
So sweet. So for those of you who don't know, I'm going to read just like one line of your bio, which is kind of all I think that people need to know, because you can fill in the blanks. But what you need to know is that Lucy Cuneo is named a top photographer in the world by Harper's Bazaar and Brides Magazine. Boom. Mic drop. What up? So casual, just like small.
It was awesome. It really changed the whole trajectory of our career.
When did that happen?
It happened, I think this is my 3rd year in a row, which has been awesome. What? I know. And so basically like you get on this list and most of our brides like find us through that. And it's just awesome because they're already expecting that they're going to be making a certain amount of investment in their photography. It just like has taken a lot of the sort of stresses of booking weddings off the table, which has been awesome. So I'm very grateful.
Well, why don't you tell us, like, for those who don't know you or follow you on the Insta, et cetera, can you just tell everybody a little bit about who you are in the world, what you do? Start with your mom life. How many kids you got?
Okay. Because I have 2 children. I have a 4-year-old son called Rory, and I have a baby who's 4 months old called Violet, and we call her Letty. So I birthed a baby in June, and I guess it's October, almost November now. So she is growing. It's great. They have been basically home with us since the pandemic started, which has been a lot.
It's like 6 months, 7 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were like a few months, you were pregnant, like
I
very pregnant.
I entered my 3rd trimester as the pandemic hit. Okay. I was like 28 weeks pregnant or something. I only know that because I put something on my Instagram. But wait, so basically like, I'm a photographer and a mom, and I run a lifestyle website, kind of. I would like to run it more, but like I'm doing the best that I can at this point. And so for people who have no idea who this person is, that's me.
Well, now you know what you need to know. You know, she had her second baby in June with the cutest name ever, doing the best she can, running a business and a blog, lifestyle blog, best photographer in the world, the end.
Like that.
Like pretty much what you need to know. What I like that you were talking about doing my best to run the blog. Okay. Tell me what it has been like, because for those of you who don't know, the Champagne Society obviously used to be an in-person event series, and Lucy was one of our panelists like 2-3 years ago. Like it was a long time ago. It was one of our earlier events at Charleston Artist Collective. And I remember you telling this story that I still think about all the time, particularly when my 3rd was born this year, about having Rory. And he was like, it was like the night he was born and you were finishing a blog article or an article for Martha Stewart. And I was like, wait, what? Like my brain actually exploded when you told that story on the panel. And so when Violet was born, I was like, okay, I really hope that she is not like on a computer right now, the night that she's born. Like, I really hope she is resting. So what have you been doing?
That's so, I think I got this like surge of productivity after Rory was born. I think a part of it was like, I felt still youthful and I had all of these goals and like, I could push myself to a limit that maybe I don't have the capacity for anymore. And that's been really hard for me to reconcile. You know, I think before you become a mother, you have like no idea how much it's going to change your life. And you're like, well, I'll totally still write that article. And I don't like not following through for other people. So basically, if it's at all like something where I'm responsible for another person or an article for another magazine, I'll totally get it done. It's just when it comes to getting my own stuff done, I like don't hold myself to the same level of accountability. Which is, I think, is very normal.
Yeah, super normal.
And then with Letty, when she was born, that was a really dramatic birth. So I did take more time afterwards. She had a birth injury and that was top priority. And so it was like everything went to a screeching halt and we've just been like getting ourselves back on track. I think you can hear my 4-year-old now. I might have to shut the door.
That's perfect.
Okay, good.
We want that.
I think we want to, we're like trying to get back on track now, which has been, harder than it could. You have 3. Like, how do you do it?
I do what? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you reminded me I had this interview today. So you tell me. What my question is like, what do you mean by like, quote, back on track? Like, when did you go off track?
Yeah.
And what does being back on track look like for Lucy?
That's a great question.
Oh, thank you.
So I would say that's the one we've been trying to answer. After we won that award for being a top photographer in the world, we had the busiest couple of years ever. Like we shot 18 destination weddings, which is a lot of weekends and travel with a child and pregnant. And they're like all over the world. So like one weekend you're in California, the next year in Italy, the next year like in the Philippines. Like it's just a lot to manage. And I always wanted to continue to run our lifestyle website because I've seen that as sort of like the after wedding plan for our business. But I found it really hard to do both at once and be a good mother. So back on track for us means just like getting back towards our future goals. So like one thing that's really important to me with business is goal setting and like trying to stick somewhat close to those goals, especially as a disorganized person. You got to like have somewhere to aim because then you'll end up like somewhere on the, like
you'll hit the board at least.
Yeah, totally.
Like the dart circle.
Yeah, exactly. Like you might not be a bullseye, but like you'll get somewhat close. And so we're trying to use this time in the pandemic where we're not shooting weddings to get like the lifestyle part of the brand up and running again, which basically means like, household, setting up home, young family routines, like, family style adventures. We're trying to like really be more mindful about the planet and bringing that on board and like bringing more meaning and soul to the website so that it can evolve into hopefully a series of like books. And, we flirted with TV in the past. So possibly something in that sphere.
That's a lot. That's your board, your bullseye board is like
broad,
way bigger than mine. I feel like I'm like, I just like want to be on a stage like Oprah. You're like trying to make the world better, bring in politics, like do all of this stuff. And I'm like, just get me to a stage.
No, listen, honestly, first of all, I feel like I too have felt like, getting onto a stage or like getting into where you feel like you're being, you're validated because you've got a core thesis, you're helping other people, you are like being productive, it's being recognized. Like that's been a big goal for us as well, because sometimes when you feel like you're just like word vomiting into the ether, it's exhausting. So I feel the exact same way as you do.
But you are I'm just very impressed with how you're able to, for a disorganized, self-proclaimed disorganized person, I feel like you're very successful at staying on track. That's why I'm wondering, like, do you feel like you just got off track the minute that Letty was born?
I feel like I got off track in 2018, which is really interesting. I think that there's a time lag between when you feel off track and when the rest of the world recognizes that you're off track. Which I think is really interesting. So like, for example, we only blogged seriously for 1 year, but now not everybody, but like our blog gets way more web traffic than it ever has, because it's like all of the work that we put in 2017 is like sort of getting recognized now. So there's like a gap. There's a period of time when you feel like you're going. And then we just like stopped and just shot weddings. And which was amazing and like a cool experience. And like, I love my couples, but I feel like now we're like getting back to where we wanted to be. I feel like that was a really unclear explanation. And I guess my point is, I think sometimes when you feel internally or like in your business off track, like people in the outside world can't see it because you're building this like trust factor on social media and on your website or whatever it is. And it just takes a while for it to like fall off course publicly. Again, a shit explanation.
No, I think I don't think it's a shit explanation. I think that there's more to that. Like for you, that seems really obvious. That is not obvious to the layman. So are you saying like for your blog, have you been updating it with content regularly since it started?
No. So I basically set myself the task when I started the blog that I was going to blog 4 times a week and send out a newsletter for every blog post. And I basically did that. And I published every morning at 6 a.m. And if I had to stay up until 5:30 and like a little bit drunk, I would post that blog post. Like I did not let myself off the hook for a period of time. And then, I think we had some qualms with blogging, which we can totally talk about, but like, we were worried that we were putting out stuff that wasn't necessarily helping other people. It was just giving people FOMO or like making them feel like they had to consume. And like, that's not what we wanted to do at all. So we were like, we're going to take off a couple months and we're going to reinfuse it with soul and meaning. And 3 fucking years later.
Okay. That's what I thought you meant. I kind of thought that what you were saying was we fell off track in 2018 and you were kind of ahead of the curve, as in basically in 2018, your integrity meter was like, what the fuck? Like, is this as that important? Like, should this have more, I don't want to say purpose, because like I do feel like your livelihood and like growing your own business is a purpose. Like you need to support your family and like fulfill your own dreams. But
a business is only helpful if it's helpful to other people.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. Yes. So that's actually a really good point. So then as a blogger, you started, because I saw a ton of this on socials. Since the pandemic and then the Black Lives Matter like revolution happened. And I really saw a lot of bloggers starting to do posts like, I'm really having to reflect, like, what the fuck is the point?
What's the point of consuming?
Yeah. And so you're saying that 2 years before all of this, you kind of had to come to Jesus and like pump the brakes. That's awesome. That's like,
thank you.
That really is. It's like, I mean, it's like, you don't, it's frustrating because you don't win any prizes for it probably, and it probably just made you feel like you were more behind, but that's like kind of what happened to me where my white privilege is concerned. It was like probably around 2018 that the same thing happened, where I just like went outside in Charleston one day and just was like walking around and noticing like who was doing what and where there was white people and where there was Black people. And then I was like looking at the Champagne Society and like looking at my own and like just looking at my life. And I literally had this super cliche white girl like moment of like, what the fuck? This is not okay. And I started to try to unpack that, very weakly resourced and not really sure where the bullseye was. I just was like, this is not normal, but it wasn't the Black Lives Matter like revolution. I hadn't like surrounded myself with the right people yet. So I really was shooting blind, trying to figure out like, well, where is my new goal? Like, if this doesn't feel good anymore, like, I don't even know what to shoot at. I just know that this isn't.
There's something wrong.
Yeah. So there's something wrong. So that's like what happened for you.
I didn't mean to put words in your mouth because you were.
No. That's exactly what it was.
Interesting.
I would like bring it up to people all the time and they were like, you're being awkward and super intense again, Gervase.
Super intense again.
Oops.
Amazing. It's amazing. I feel like I'm getting so much of that right now. I feel like it's really hard to be going through. I mean, it's not hard. It's awesome. And like, we're so lucky, but it's when you're going through something you can't quite identify and you're trying to make sure that you are like bringing value and like you're repping your kids and you're like raising your family correctly and you're in the community and you're just like speaking to more than one type of person, which is like, really common. I think it's such a privilege to be able to be an entrepreneur. I think that it is probably stacked with like, or especially, I think we have to be really careful. I have to be careful about the way I phrase this because it's like,
you don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. But like, Will calls them like white girl businesses, like, because there's one that I have in my mind's eye and he's like, how can you make this like not a white girl business? Like, because, we're so lucky to be able to swan off and like do my edit on bathing suits or like whatever it is that I want to do. But, I think that the future of business is like being more mindful of the community, all the different, positions that people are in. And also just like every business has to have a soul. And I think that is going to be huge. So I commend you for like recognizing that before all of this happened.
Yeah. But again, I didn't get an award. I actually had a couple of really awkward situations arise because of it. But I also, when I unpack that, like when you talk about a white girl business, let's say I had one. So I probably had a white girl business. Right. But when I thought about that, I was like, well, who cares? Like, I'm trying to do better. And now I know. And so I'm going to try to do better. And I can't convince everybody that I'm good. I just have to focus on, now I know, now I have seen the light and this is fucked up. And I am privileged in a lot of ways. And I do have a platform that I can use. And so how can I be better tomorrow than I was before? And it's kind of like, it could be paralyzing otherwise if you're just always trying to do it perfectly. So I just kind of was like, well, I'm just going to do this really imperfectly because that's just kind of the name of my game. And it's going to be sloppy, but who cares? Like, whatever, at least I'm trying. And sloppy for me is better than being paralyzed, which I have also been,
I really needed to hear that today. So thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
It wouldn't be more accurate. I think that, I think that people do feel overwhelmed. Like a lot of people are dealing with moral crises and they don't know how to say it and they don't want to put it out there into the ether. I don't know why I keep using that word. It's not one I normally use. But they feel like they're going to say the wrong thing or, you just have to be not afraid of fucking up. So I really admire you for not letting it paralyze you because that's been a big problem for me, overanalyzing and then being paralyzed.
I think it requires a huge dose of humility.
Right. Totally.
Which I'm not saying that you don't have. I'm just saying even when I've been called out or called in, I'm like, okay, I have two choices. I can feel sorry for myself and prove that I'm good and be a victim, or I can just be like, okay, yes, I heard, I fucked up. Okay. Help me be better, or just spin me around, point me in the right direction. And, that's where I'm going. So I do think it's I don't know, but tell me about your moral, for you, when you were like, okay, I don't want our business to look like this anymore. What were some of the solutions that you came up with of how to show up as an entrepreneur?
Well, I think that for us to so our website was in heavy danger as a lifestyle blog, as someone who's constantly pointing, the beauty of your business is you're including other voices and you're trying to get to know other people. You're trying to help other people. There's something so, naturally selfish about blogging. And you're like, hey, check out do you think I look cute sweater? And you think my trip looks fun? And
Answer, yes.
That's not helpful for other people. So, and I think that we were feeling really self-conscious about that because the reason I started blogging is because I wanted to put my eye out there. I love setting tables. I love doing creative things. And I felt as a photographer, I was constantly photographing other people's visions and I wanted to photograph my own. So we had all of the skills based in, but I hadn't anticipated that it would be like, me. So, I think a big part of what we're trying to do to be better is to make sure everything that we put out there is helpful, keeping the client and our target demographic in mind, answering individual questions from people who DM and all across the spectrum from how to take your own maternity photos to how to fucking vote to what sweater should I be buying? Or for some of our wedding clients are people who we style. So I'll pick all the bridesmaids dresses, help the bride feel amazing. So just how can we offer more of ourselves for the purpose of other people, even if it's superficial stuff, because everybody wants to feel good.
Yeah, that superficial stuff though. I mean, it's easy to hate on it. And I definitely have been guilty of doing that in the past, but I think also I did a story yesterday where I was like, FYI, started curling my hair and putting on makeup daily. Highly recommend when you feel like shit. And it has totally, the days that I've done it in the last month, I feel good. I'm like, let's do more work. Let's record a video. So self-esteem and confidence is partly based on how you look and feel in your clothes. And all of that.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. You can motivate other people to feel like it's okay to get dressed up and put on makeup. That's a beautiful thing. And I know bloggers who've done that for me and like given me permission to be like my full feminine self rather than being, I think there was a period in like the 90s and 2000s where like being overdressed or made up was like embarrassing. And I think that we've really pushed back
embarrassing.
on that with blogging.
I was like 10.
Yeah, I know.
I am so embarrassed by this.
So I think I completely agree that like, a huge part of your self-confidence comes from the way you feel, whether it's like your fitness or the way you look, or just like feeling like you're pulled together and you're the self that you want to be. And then you have more space to help others. So
but it's not the only thing. So you're trying to make it not the only thing too.
Well, also like, I just think that blogging, people make money blogging through affiliate links. And I had this crisis this summer where I felt like everyone was handling it differently on social media. And Will and I had this conversation where we were like, what are we going to tell our children we were doing in the summer of 2020? Because I sure as shit, like, don't want to tell them I'm setting a fucking table or like linking to a J. Crew sale.
That is like, a really awesome conversation. I feel like I need to go have that conversation like right now.
Sometimes it's exhausting to have these conversations over and over. I think you're right to say you have to just like push forward and like do the best you can.
But like also you had a newborn the summer of 2020 and you are holding yourself to a very high expectation. And so this is interesting because this is really like a balance of like, yes, we want to be good people. We want to give back. We want to support. We want to do work that helps people. Right. And you can't help others if you're drowning yourself. So, I mean, like for me, I'm like, okay, what was I doing the summer of 2020? Oh, I was just like managing some pretty severe postpartum depression. Like, come on, Gervase, like step it up.
No, that's completely different. I actually feel like I'm going through a little bit of that now.
Really?
You have to get your mental health on track.
But even for you, like, it's amazing. Like we don't even need to talk about me because I think my point is, I think it's so impressive that somebody with a newborn would ever also have the mental capacity to have the conversation of, but also, what are we going to tell our kids we were doing the summer of 2020, besides breastfeeding, So
I thank you for saying that. I feel like, when you have a baby, it's like a natural time of reflection anyway. And I feel like a big part of, what we were going to tell them is because we didn't feel like we were the people we wanted to be before I even gave birth to her. And like, I was so tuned into the news and everything that was happening, like right up until she was born. And then like it felt like the whole world changed because I just needed to handle her. Right. But I think that it's an extension of an ongoing conversation. And like, maybe it was urgent at the time because like having a second child, like loads on like everything you're going to have to do on like a day-to-day basis from like the cooking to like the breastfeeding. So it was like, shit, how are we going to be better? It wasn't like, how are we going to be better? Well, it was like panic stations, Okay,
so you're just like setting
everything is so fucking
the stage.
Totally. Like just stressing out and like
there's a lot of sweating.
Moral crisis. But I think what we came up with, and this might be really stupid and I haven't fleshed out yet, but is like, one thing I was really struck by is like style is the space you occupy in the world. And I think that style is so much more than what you wear. It is like how your impact on like other people. So it's like, everything from like how you treat people in your restaurant or like, at the local farmer stand or like, how you contribute to your neighborhood. And I'm not saying that we all have to live this like unbelievably worthy life, but I think that buying a sweater online and like being tuned in with the news aren't mutually exclusive. You can have both, obviously. And like, we've been working on like how to meld them together because I love collecting textures and things. And I also like want to know what's going on in the fucking world. And I want to bring that together in a space that just like helps everybody who feels like they're drowning in like, how do I keep up and then keep up with my own shit? And so that's what we've been working on.
That's so cool. And it's also, how do you, like always strive to be better, but not deny who you inherently are, which I think is important. Cause I do feel like a lot of people right now are, really feeling bad for feeling good, essentially, and so that's not really helpful either. Because I mean, I have this conversation a lot with my family of like, I have pretty strong boundaries around myself. where the news and politics are concerned, not to stick my head in the sand, but because I know my bandwidth has always been my biggest challenge. And so I know, like, I don't know, I was watching the news for a while there, like a long time. And I was like, I feel so bad. I learned nothing new. I did not educate myself. I don't feel informed. I don't feel illuminated or enlightened or anything. I just feel bad. And now this version of me has to take care of my 3 children and show up for my business to serve like all these women and myself, like my mental health. And so explaining to people how like I drew those boundaries because it's like self-preservation, but also not trying to opt out, like really trying to stay present is so, it's such a fucking balancing act. It's really, it's interesting. So for you, this is so good. I didn't think we were going to dive into all of this, but let's just steamroll.
I'm glad that you said that too, because I feel like I need to hear. The last thing I want to do is like ever pressure anybody to like stay up with stuff that's stressing them out. And I think you're right to say that a lot of people feel like, well, this is just like giving me a shitload of anxiety and I don't know how to help. Mm-hmm. So like, this isn't productive, you know, like I need to just, and it does start within your family.
Mm-hmm. But I also, you know, like, like my daughter, Maya, the 4-year-old, she has this thing where she's like, Mommy, let's talk about important things. And so like the other day we were on a walk and she said it, and I don't know, we had like passed a house with a Black Lives Matter sign. Yeah. And I was like, you know, Maya, we need to get a Black Lives Matter sign. Why don't we have a Black Lives Matter sign? And then what does that mean? Well, I don't even know. We got into this whole conversation about race, and she said, oh, like the police officer that put his knee on that Black man's neck. And I said, well, that was George Floyd. And then we got like deeper and deeper. Wow. To the point where, hopefully this isn't like triggering to anybody. So, you know, be mindful. But I said, well, what would you do? Like if you felt unsafe and you felt like somebody was going to hurt you, what would you do? And she said, I would call for my mommy. And I was like, without even thinking, I was like, well, actually he did that. And then she was like, what? And I was like, well, he did call for his mommy. And then she had more like, well, where was she come? Like, why didn't she come? Like, what happened? And so long story short, the babysitter was like, Maya keeps talking about George Floyd calling for his mommy. And I just don't know if I want to have this conversation. And I was like, yeah, well, we have those conversations. And again, it's sloppy. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm not trying to put my head in the sand.
That's amazing.
But at the same time, so it's like, I don't want that my kids to grow up in a bubble, but at the same time, I need to protect my own energy. So, you know, when there's something new happening, I like choose the sources that I listen to learn about it. But I don't like overconsume it because it's like my job to put up my own boundaries.
Right. That's very smart.
And I don't what was even the point of me saying all of this?
Profound conversation to be having with your 4-year-old. I feel like Rory just turned 4. And so he's definitely aware of the virus and the pandemic, but we haven't talked about George Floyd. And I wonder now if I should, but he is so easily frightened. So like also to that innocence is hard. Yes. But wow. Really amazing.
I mean, it's an intuitive thing. I think, you know,
when,
but I think it also just goes to show you might talk to somebody who's like, oh, I don't watch the news. This is like a common thing where people are like, I don't watch the news. And I used to be like, oh, you don't watch the news? Like what a little privilege, like to just not watch the news. Right. And now I'm like, well, I don't watch the news, but I just had a conversation with my 4-year-old about George Floyd. So it's like never assuming that, you know, what is the better way for another mother to balance her energy and her bandwidth and like put up her boundaries while also mothering consciously and like, I don't even know the right word.
No,
like
I think that's
anti-racist kids and all of that, which we haven't even like specifically said we're talking about racism, by the way. I'm just like, that's where I keep taking it. There's so many things, not just race.
I think that is one of the things that means it's so many things. It's like, I think people feel overwhelmed by the news because it's not common as laymen for us to feel like we have to digest the amount that we are right now. It's like, we are truly going through, like with our president, with, you know, Black Lives Matter, with the pandemic, like an unprecedented amount of stuff to consume every single day. And so like, we've never really been asked as citizens to do this on this level. And I think that everybody needs to pick like where to tune in and out. But I think it's very different to say like, gosh, I'm in tune with what's happening, but I'm protecting like my mental health versus just being like, I'm not political, or like, I don't watch the news. Like, I think you're doing a great job. And I have to say, like, when I got to Martha's Vineyard, I basically, and like, I felt like such an a-hole over coming to Martha's Vineyard. It's like Democrats' playground. And like, I feel it's such a privilege to be here. And like, I have so much guilt about that, but I felt really like I needed some time off. And I basically took 5 weeks of like newborn time, and like, did not read the news. So like everybody has to protect themselves. And I don't want to say like in any way, shape or form in this podcast that I think everyone needs to read the news every day.
No. And I don't,
but I just think you take like some responsibility for like, how everyone can be better.
100%. And it's like, it's a dance of, like you lean in,
right.
And you like consume it all and talk about it. And then I do think you need rest. Like a lot of rest from it, which kind of points to a couple other things I wanted to touch on. One, you not only did you have your second child in the middle of pandemic 4 months ago in Charleston, but then you moved from Charleston to Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah, we did. We didn't
know that sounds super easy.
I was so fucking hard that we were like, we're not going home. Like it was so hard. Well, the car ride was so difficult. It was a real like dance of like, do we do this? Do we not? And we were expecting to just come up for a couple months. And it was literally just like, we can't go home. We have been, and I know that sounds like so light, but we've been toying with moving back up here. I think the pandemic laid bare for everybody, like what they were struggling with. And for us, like Charleston felt like a really selfish place to live because we have no family. Like we are not participating in our like immediate group, which is like, how can I help my dad? Or like, or vice versa. Like we just have a newborn baby. I think it was really eye-opening. I was really paranoid about coronavirus, and I was giving birth at the birth center, and I didn't know where to put Rory. I was like, I literally do not have a family member here who can look after my son so I can go give birth. And like, my mom wasn't getting on a plane. My dad wasn't getting on a plane, not because they were so happy to do it. If I had asked, I was insisting.
But you didn't want to put them at risk.
We didn't know at that point what the risk of flying was. It was so urgent at that time. I'd rather have given birth by myself than
oh my God,
put my parent in danger. So
you should have texted me for some babysitters.
I mean, I do not like imposing on anybody. And at one point we like had a babysitter who we were talking to, who's amazing. We adore her. But like, in order to reserve her for like the 3-week period when I could have been giving birth, it was $5,000. And I was just like, I can't.
That's a different kind of babysitter than I would have texted you.
It was just like, I don't.
Mine are like college girls.
Seriously, like we don't have any income because of the pandemic. Like I had to return 90% of my fucking deposits this year. So it's just like, we were just dealing with a lot. In the end, my little sister ended up being like halfway down to us anyway. And she drove the whole way without stopping, just to get gas, like gloves on. She was amazing. Like it was great. But I think that we felt so stranded in Charleston. And then as soon as we came up here, we felt like we had our little community, and we realized that like, we just need to, at least like for this year, this will give us the most normal shot at a real life with family support, like going out, all of that stuff. Because we have a community and we just like didn't have that there. So you're so lucky you've got cousins and family, and like, you're the luckiest in the world. If I had that in Charleston, I would never leave.
I am very, honestly, I've told Catherine before, I'm like, I don't know if I would still live here if you didn't live. I'm like, why do I live here? I mean, I like it here, but I'm not like one of those people, like I don't live downtown. I'm not like, I don't know. I like it a lot, but I literally, when I think about like the fact that I've lived here for 16 years, I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's just because of my cousin. Like because it felt like a sister lived here.
Yeah. You know? Oh, you guys are the best. And you guys remind me the most of my family. So my cousins are like my sisters, and they're all up here. So I was just like,
gotta go then. Go where your cousins are. That take one. No, I will say my sister actually just moved from LA with her new husband to Charleston too. So, cause I think they were, having a similar like, LA's shut down.
Yeah.
Like, what are we like, what is the next year of our life going to look like if we stay in the city? So now I'm like really, really the luckiest ever because I got my sister and my cousin. But anyway,
difference.
It makes such a difference. So then maybe that transition was not as hard because it was like into something easier instead of.
Yeah. The only thing that has been hard is like packing up our house from afar. But I think we really annoyed some neighbors, but they were incredibly supportive and amazing. They're awesome. They're like my favorite people. I think leaving Charleston has been heartbreaking because like we're leaving our neighbors who we love.
You had a good block.
Oh, the best block.
That was like good peeps on the
block. So that's been hard, but we figured it out. It's all good. Like, again, it's like, we're so lucky. Like we got to move, like we got to just deal with it.
Yeah.
We're a little tight on cash, but like, we'll get there, and it's like, if that's your biggest problem, like, amen,
Yeah. So, and then I'm really glad to hear that. Cause there was a point where I heard that you were moving and I was like, oh God, this is going to really be the straw that broke the camel's back. She's got a baby. But like literally, I'm always like looking at other people from my mental stability, and I'm like, that would definitely put me over the edge.
I feel like so I just got this is like not important stuff. I just got a Peloton and like it's changed my life because I can exercise. Like minutes.
Gotta do it. I
started sobbing on it the other day, and it was so embarrassing because you think with your headphones and no one can hear you. Like I still have that problem. And like, I was just sobbing into the living room, and I turned around and Will and Maury were just staring at me because like, I do have a lot of pent up like anxiety, stress. Like I have like trauma from the birth, like from moving, from a pandemic. And like, it just comes out in like weird moments.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't feel like I'm particularly stable right now, but I feel like I'm just doing my best to like not let it. I think if I overthink, it will just stress me out more.
Yeah. So is that the main thing that you are doing to kind of manage that is exercise? Huge for me. Like, I have to. And I'm like, at the bottom rung of the class. Like I'm not by no means like an athlete. I was the slowest 1 mile runner from 5th grade on. But it makes me feel better. 100%. So, huge for me. When I exercise, I feel so much better. Actually, yesterday I felt like, oh God, I got so much on my plate at this moment. I'm going to end work early. I'm going to go for a run. But then I was like, man, I really want some wine. And I was like, no, this is great. I will go for a run. And then I come in, I chug water, and then I have the wine. And my sister is like, well, you're kind of balanced. Like, at least you don't just drink the wine. I'm like, sometimes I do too, but on an ideal day. Yeah. I have to exercise in the morning because I do have if I'm not, I'm breastfeeding, but so I watch it, but I am having a glass of wine every night. Yeah. It's a great pleasure for me. I fucking love wine, and I like beautiful wine, and it's not something I'm willing to release at this point in time. So same, girl. I'm doing it. Same. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So what else would I want to ask you? Okay. So it's funny too, what you said about releasing the emotion. And I talk to so many women who, we are holding so much right now, and we don't even realize it. And then we do. I mean, I literally, I'm doing my hypnotherapy certification. I get these women on the phone. Oh. And we literally start the first thing. It's like, wait, close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths. And they start breathing and they start crying right away. And I'm like, oh wait, that's not, we haven't really started yet. That's just, but we're not even breathing. We're not breathing because we're so, I won't say we, I mean, I don't want to generalize, but I think a lot of women are carrying a lot. And somebody I spoke to, what day is it? Last week was, I won't even say her profession just in case that gives away anything, but she was like, yeah. And then, this virus, and then my kids are homeschooling, and then this presidential election and all of the stuff. And I was like, yeah, it's a lot, especially if you are feeling the anxiety of the presidential election, which I'm like, what month is it? Is it almost over? Because I'm just let's just get this over with. But how are you feeling about that? Because I know that's a big thing for you. Very stressed. Very stressed. I think Trump has basically put has stalled for 4 years, or just delayed other people's lives because he gives us so much anxiety. I think that I've been dealing with a lot of why did you become political on Instagram? Why? Yeah. Why? Right. Tell us why.
because I felt like
this goes back to 2018, doesn't it?
Yeah. But also like this for me, first of all, like I wish that I'd shown my true colors on social media before a crisis hit, because you don't realize like what a thin sliver you're showing of yourself. Like I've always been pretty political. Like I got almost kicked out of school when I was 13 because I like led an anti-war protest, and it ended up on like the front page of the New York Times, and like
what?
People came
Wait.
straight to my dad's office.
Okay. Only you would lead a protest at the age of 10, 13 that would land on the front page of the New York Times. But
it was ridiculous. Wearing like, make love, not war, like total. But I was like, this is not, it's not new for me to feel passionate and to like want to stand up for what I feel passionate about. And I think that, people have been like, why did you become so political? I don't really know that this is like traditional political. This isn't like Republican versus Democrat. This is like a choice that I feel will impact like the planet, the well-being of our nation. Our democracy is under threat. Like there are so many important things at play here that it doesn't feel like tradition. I'm not political. Like I'm not I'm definitely a very liberal Democrat, but I'm not like pushing that agenda so hard in a regular election. I just feel at this point it's so urgent. And, to not put that out there on social media felt like, I wasn't doing enough to stand up for what I believe in. And also just like, I don't think that there is any such thing at this point as to, I don't know, I'm like contradicting myself, but like being too political. Like, I think that if we're feeling complacent or like apathetic or like don't want to vote because we're just exhausted by it, I want to like have productive conversations with people online. I want to, like, I would say that, a couple of people have said to me, like, social media needs to be an escape. Instagram is a place that I go to just to like zone out and like to feel.
Which is interesting because like you've always been able to filter your feed. So it's not like if it's suddenly not feeling like an escape, then just change your filters. It's like it's like a melting pot of things.
Right. Oh, totally. You can make whatever sorry, I thought you meant like literally like your photo filters.
No.
Totally agree with you. Yeah. And you can, then we have lost thousands of people. Like
really,
a lot of people were just like, bye, like I can't deal with this. And then I was really proud of the people who came forward and wanted to talk about it. But I think that, if you're not putting it out there, if you don't want to see it on social media, you can like take it out. But also like at this point, it's just too pressing. Like we all need to get our voices out there. And especially like with our democracy being under threat. So like, Will and I also have this tagline in the house, which is like, while we were all taking selfies, like our democracy was slipping away. Like at some point you have to tune in a little bit. But I do regret, I think that I haven't been helpful in some ways because I'm so off the cuff. I don't filter my feed at all. And I don't really filter my stories. And there have been some times where I put up something funny or mocking of Trump or like a meme. And I actually don't think that's like productive or helpful. It doesn't, whoever's on the other side of that, if they're on the fence, maybe they feel like anxious or maybe I've made someone feel attacked. And my goal isn't to do that. It's to like our whole brand and like family ethos and like the way that we live in the world is like, from a very loving perspective. And I wish that I had done a better job of not being so off the cuff, like, haha, isn't that funny? And just saying like gently bringing people along so that it could have been like more inclusive and made people who maybe felt overwhelmed feel included. And like, this was a place that's safe. It's safe to say here, like, I don't really understand what's going on because like, we're going to help you figure that out. Versus feeling like, oh, this like liberal girl is just like dishing it out. So I don't think that I did my best work here, but I'm working on that for the future because I love people like deeply, like our whole business, like our whole lives are like based. I started photographing because I love people and I don't want to ever make anybody feel like isolated on Instagram. So I need to work on my presentation of all of that.
Yeah. But it's also like what I was saying about being sloppy when you first kind of not wake up, because you said like, this has been who you are. But I think it sounds to me like it was probably really freeing to just be able to be yourself and just say, fuck it, because I do think we're like so busy having these little perfect boxes of who we are. And then one day we just have this fuck it moment and we're like, actually, this is hurting more than it's helping. And so it's like a pendulum swinging, right? So then you swung to the other end and it was a little sloppy, but like, oh, well, like a lot of things, that's life. And it's funny too, hearing you say that, because knowing you and having spent time with you and like had a couple nights drinking like 27 bottles of wine with you, I think that is something that is special about you, and that the right people that are meant to be in your community will be drawn to who you genuinely are. Because if they're not, it's a lot of work for you to try to be this, you know, like perfect, this is a safe space and if that's not, obviously you're a safe person. Like obviously people who know you and love you feel that way. And I'm not trying to like give you an out or anything, but I do think there's a little bit of this perfectionism of everybody's trying to be really well liked while also being really authentic, while also being really welcoming. And it's like, you know what? Maybe it's just impossible. Maybe I'm just going to be myself. Right. Because nobody can be me as well as me. And I'm going to always try to be humble. Like we were saying at the beginning, like bring humility to everything I do, like apologize when I think I fucked up and be better and, you know, like grow as a person, grow my business with me. But like, I don't know, I think you are kind of spunky and funny and sarcastic and all of that. And so it's maybe another perspective could be that it's kind of okay that you lost all those followers and like that maybe they felt, you know what I compare this to sometimes is when I think about like guys that I dated in college who probably think I am insane. And like, if you like, my husband is always like, you know, pick your crazy. Everybody's, you know, you're all crazy, whatever. Yeah. But I just think when you're not in the right match, sometimes you come across in the worst ways. And there was sometimes where I would like, I don't know, there would be a guy and the way that would end as I was like, I sound crazy. And I'm not crazy, but like trying to explain myself. And then one day you're just like, fuck it. You know what? I got a husband now and he accepts me for everything that I am. And nobody has like a perfect track record. So I do wonder if like where you are in your dance with like social media and activism and kind of this awakening of like, what do you want your legacy to be? Maybe it is like, you don't have to worry so much about being like all these things, like the safe place and they'll you know, and I love people and all that stuff. It's like the people that know you, that are drawn to you would hopefully trust in your integrity. Right. But I guess it's hard because it's freaking Instagram. So.
Right. And so you're not even showing like I think you're much better. And I need to work on this, like talking to the camera, like talking to the community of the people who are there with you, because so that they do know you. So they know that if you say something where you're fucking it up, like you didn't mean it. Or like, you know, if you are saying something, it's because you are really passionate about it. Or like, this is important. Or like, you know, so they get the clear read of like exactly communicating like who you are on social media is really hard. But I think that's really well said. And I do think that, you know, one thing that I keep saying, coming back to, you know, is like, you know, what is our world made up of? It's like people, families, businesses, government. Like businesses have a place in the world to shape the world that we want to live in. It's important for a business to have a soul and an ethos. And as a personal brand, it's like even more fucking important because if I go out there and I tell everybody it's okay to just start shopping and ignore the fucking world, like that's not doing anything, you know, but like, it doesn't mean that we can't shop. It just means that we have to find like this balance. And I think that that's what I've really been working towards. And I know that for me in this pandemic, I have like become a diehard customer of like Patagonia because they put the vote the assholes out on the tag, and Ben and Jerry's because they were like, oh, white supremacy. And I was just like, yes,
you were like, these are my people.
Totally. You need to go live in Vermont. Like I really felt like, like I felt so invigorated by them. And now I'm literally, by the way, Ben and Jerry's ice cream is so good.
So good.
It's so good.
So
like,
good.
That for me has been really interesting. You do form like loyalty from the people who are like, me too. And I've had a lot of really supportive messages as well, which I've been really grateful for, because there's nothing worse than like putting up a news story at like midnight when you're a little drunk and then like waking up and being like, shit. because that's how I run my Instagram.
Yeah. But I think
casual.
I mean, in your defense, it's like, or in the defense of all people who are building their business on social media, like by doing it the curated way, that is the way that it was taught forever. Like it is a paradigm shift. So it's going to be a little sloppy for a little bit. And I think that's beautifully said. I think, well, no, what?
No, thank you. Thank you for pointing that out to me, because I hadn't really drawn the parallel. And I've just been so stressed about how do you draw the line between putting out like what some people think are extreme political views. Like, you know, there's like on the other side, people think that like really liberal people are dangerous or something. And then putting up a picture of your child's face. Like, so that balance between like, I feel this way, and then also like I'm volunteering my children on social media, and like finding that balance has been slipping away from me, because in the beginning I really vowed that I would never put Rory and Violet up. And obviously, like, I think what I felt when I wasn't putting them up often was like I'm hiding this huge like part of myself, and I'm not being transparent, because like my children are my world, like every mother, like every father, you know, my children are a huge part of my happiness. So how do you like be your authentic self and keep everybody safe, and you know, just make sure that you're not like exploiting your children on, you know, I think I've struggled with that a lot, and we need to be working on it, but it's sloppy, but it's working.
Totally. And I think that the answer is from where I'm sitting, like hearing it, is let go of expecting it to be perfect. You know, like I think the how is what you're doing. It's like, you know what, it's funny. Like, it's like when I was in labor with my first like natural birth with Maya, and I was like, I can't do this. How am I going to do this? I can't do this. Like, and then I was like, I'm doing this. I am in labor in a bathtub. Like, I'm doing it. So I think our brain wants to be so like controlling and rational and be like, how, like, what is the blueprint? And we are in a time of no blueprint and just, you know, pioneers. And so I want to acknowledge you for being a pioneer in this space. Somebody who I really have loved following your personal transformation. I know it happened before you put it online, but I love that you're bringing more of yourself to the table. And it makes me feel like I have more permission to do the same, because I've definitely grappled with my own, like, oh, do I want to like piss people off and like get mean messages? And then, you know, and then I'm like, fuck it. It's like when you buy Ben and Jerry's and then you're just like, yeah, you know? And so like me seeing other women do that has been really, has given me permission too, has been empowering. So I really want to acknowledge you for being a pioneer in that space. And
I appreciate that.
You are so welcome.
You are so much, I think, you know, better at that than I am. And I really, it means a lot coming from you. So thank you for saying that. And also just saying like, let go, perfect. And like, who fucking cares?
Yes.
Also, like,
yes. I'm very good at that.
Yeah,
fuck it. I'm just going to mess this up. Oh God. Whoever edits this is going to be.
Like progress, not perfection, is huge, you know?
Yeah.
And just like, no one can decide like your whole legacy in one day. So it's just like showing up, making sure that, you know, I think a big part of this move was like, how do we live our fucking values without, again, like being so worthy? Like, I can't be so ego that I like don't order shit off Amazon. Like, there are certain things that I need, you know, and like, I can't expect other people to let go. So I don't want to like lead in this extreme way that's unrealistic for us too. But like, how can we just like edge a little bit more towards sustainability, or like, you know, knowledge, or like anti-racist, or just like all of these things, so that we're just like moving along in a way that makes us feel really proud of who we are at the end of the day, you know,
which is exactly like what should be, in my opinion, the dartboard. Like, it should just be like, what will make you feel proud? You know, like tomorrow when you wake up, will you feel proud that you did this thing or posted that, you know, like, did it feel in integrity in the moment? And then, you know, you can like clean it up as you go. It's like, I mean, it's like parenting, you know, you're like, you know, I have these standards that I have for myself and morals and things that I want to be as a mother, but like, do I nail it all the time? No. And then I'm like, I blew that one. Now I got to apologize. This is so annoying. And also like, maybe it's fine. You know, maybe it's not, maybe it's like really not that big a deal. And it's just throwing darts and hoping that some of them land.
I mean, like, let's hope so. But I think that's so true. And like, you know, the more you can be yourself with your children and like, you know, not be like, you know, teaching them the way, but like gently, and just not be holding yourself to standards that are like impossible. I think that's really a valuable thing as a mom.
Yes.
You know, like being yourself and like being a little unit, which it seems like you guys really are.
I mean, you are too. We both are.
Really,
I think most are. But wait, I almost forgot. I wanted to ask you this final question, which is what would you tell yourself before you became a mom, knowing what you know now? Like, what do you wish somebody would have told you before you became a mom for the first time that you now know?
God, that's such a good question. I wish I had like an amazing answer. I would say that like I was so career driven and like ready to roll. And I was worried that like children would, you know, not get in the way of that, but I was like worried about how it would impact my life. And like, you know, it's such a cliche, but like the expansion and like the value of children and like what they bring to your world is just so much more important than like my schedule or my social media feed or just like anything at all. It has brought Will and I closer together. It has like gotten rid of every stupid fight because like you don't have time. Like
yes,
really, like you just don't have time to like fight about the small stuff at all. So you're just like, you're united, and it has been like such a joy, such a pleasure. And what I hadn't really seen coming, because you can't envision your baby before the baby's born. Like I'm so in love with Letty. Like I love the way Rory is with her. I was so worried about like having another child and introducing and having Rory feel like overwhelmed. And it's just been like, I can't imagine our lives now as like not a unit of 4. And like hopefully 5 one day, you know, I just think not yet. It's like the whole point of living. And I don't want to like put people who don't have children down, but like for us, it has been just amazing. So
I would snap to all of that.
You just don't know until you do it, you know? And then it's like,
do it if you want to know.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no way to know until you know.
And it's just been so awesome. And like, yeah, they just teach you so much about living and resilience. And, but yesterday, like as you were having your profound conversation about George Floyd, you turned to me, I was bathing both of them and then brought them both upstairs, and like they both wanted something at the same time. And Rory turned to me and was like, "Why is it so hard to parent 2 children?" And I was like, I have like an extended family group chat, and like that is going in the books because like what mom wants to be asked that? It was so awesome. I was like, I don't know. That's going to be the title of my biography.
Oh, that's so good.
So funny.
Except it'll be like, why is it so hard to parent 5 children from Martha's Vineyard? From a pioneer in a sweater in Martha's Vineyard.
It really made me laugh. Like sometimes they say the darndest things.
Oh my gosh. That was beautifully put. Thank you so much for your time, for sharing.
For having me, and I hope
it was literally quite an energizing conversation for me. And for those who want to keep in touch with you or support you after today, where can they learn more about you aside from the show notes? I've always wanted to say show notes. This is my first time saying show notes.
I love it. I'm so proud of you. I can't wait to listen to every single one. So my Instagram is Lucy Cuneo, which is Cuneo. And then this is my website, www.lucycuneo.com. My email is lucy@lucycuneo.com. I've been honestly thinking, you know how Amy Schumer puts her cell phone in her bio? Like, I want to have that kind of transparency, but Will told me I can't do that. So I'm not going to put that here.
Well, don't make Will mad, because I literally can't even imagine him being mad. I think I told you that before. This is weird. I'm having deja vu. Anyway, okay.
Thank you. You were the best.
Thank you.
You feel better about everything.
You are so welcome. Thanks for your work in the world, and catch you later.
Bye.
Bye.